757 Spy here. Thank you for tuning in here on YouTube. Definitely appreciate you stopping by today. That is a fabulous airplane. I've got to tell you, more people are buzzing about that particular airplane all over YouTube, Twitch, and the flight sim community. A lot of people are excited about the PMDG DC6. It's one of the first. Well, there are other complicated airplanes, but this is a really amazing payware airplane here. So wanted to do a cold and dark flight for you on this one. And let me give you an idea of what it is that we're going to do today. We're going to be flying a historic United Airlines DC6 route. We've got our passengers and cargo as our payload. The flow chart that I'm going to be using, I'm going to put that over on the Discord channel for you a little bit later on. So you can get that information. I'll put a link to Discord in the description below there. Some things that I use for this, though. I use SkyVector for VOR to VOR flight planning. I do use SimToolkit Pro, which is free. I use SimBrief, which is free. So is SkyVector. Navigraph Jepson charts, though. That is a subscription, though, and we are going to be using Jepson charts for today. And instead of the toolbar pushback, we're going to actually do a power back today. So what's the plan? Well, we're going to keep this super simple. This airplane is super complex, and there are a dozen different rabbit holes that you can dive down in this particular airplane. And I got to tell you, it really can get super complex. So the goal today is get you from cold and dark up in the air and down on the ground again as easily as possible. From there, you're going to be able to dive down those rabbit holes, and I definitely suggest you look for the really nice manuals that PMDG has put together for this airplane. You'll find it in your community folder. Look for PMDG-aircraft-DC6/documentation. Finally, as usual with my cold and dark flights, there is no right way versus wrong way. That's not what this is all about. This is just what is working for me and the simplest way to get things going on your flight. And our flight today is going to be simple. If this is your first time doing a cold and dark flight with me, the goal here is for you to fly along. So hit pause on the YouTube video and fire up your flight simulator and get the airplane at the gate somewhere at LaGuardia. Okay, and we're going to go to midway here. Pause and restart the video as often as you need to. Go back and replay something if I leave you leave you in the dust so that you can catch off. Please use the thing called the Flight Engineer. We're going to be talking about that. And if you like what you see, I hope you'll consider joining me over here on the Spy Flight. We are recreating a real-world United Airlines flight from way back in 1953. Back then, United basically did coast-to-coast, West Coast, and Hawaii flights. Our flight today is going to be New York to Chicago. So New York to Chicago is what it is that we're going to be doing today. And our airplane is here at LaGuardia Airport. And we're not going to O'Hare, though. Back in the days when United was flying these airplanes, they were going to Chicago Midway. So, yeah, we're going to be going to Midway. And there you go. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and crawl into the cockpit. Oh, wait a minute. One more thing. There's one thing I want to suggest that you do here. So here we are in the cockpit, and as you look down there, there's the throttles, right? See that big red handle in the middle? This is kind of a secret here. So not really a secret. Nobody knows about it, but you need to do this. That red handle is the prop reversers. You know, in jets, you got thrust reversers. Well, you can reverse the props to help you slow down when you're landing. Thing is, when you're landing, you've got your, you're looking out there, you know, you're trying to keep centered on the runway. And I don't know any pilot that has time to look down here and hit this lever for landing. So what I suggest you do is if you're here in the airplane, hit the escape button and go over here to controls and options. And when your controllers go in, I want you to go all the way over to your throttle quadrant, okay? It's really simple here. Go to your throttle quadrant, and here's my throttle. I'm using the Thrustmaster Airbus stuff. And you see the top thing here? It says toggle water rudder. And I've actually got this keybound over to the number 1 button on my throttle, so that when I'm landing and I pull my throttles all the way back, my finger is right by that number 1 button. I can click that, And that's going to put my props into reverse because you don't have time to reach down. So that's one important safety tip. It's going to help you out an awful lot while you're landing. If you don't fly with the stick and throttle, make a key bind on that so that you've got it right next to your throttles, and you can go ahead and slow that thing down. So that's really the thing that you need to do. We do not have a jetway out here. Passengers got on through the back door in this particular airplane. So we've got the back door open. We've got the stairway rolled up there. It's a really nice cabin. We'll look at the cabin in just a little bit, but right now we need to get in this thing and get it ready to go. And the best way to get it ready to go is with the automated flight engineer. First of all, I've got ramp manager here. I've got all my doors open. I have wheel chocks and a ground power unit. Load manager. Let's see. The load manager is right here. We have got a half load of fuel here. For just getting started, just do a half load of fuel. My fuel right now is at 16,536 pounds. The flight plan for today's flight says that we need 10,550. Got more than enough fuel to make it to Chicago. As far as passengers, I've got 30 passengers and 200 pounds cargo. That gives me a gross weight of 83,000 pounds. SimBrief has got my gross weight for today's flight. My takeoff weight is 82,858. That's really close. Really close is going to work for this flight. So really close is a good deal. Let's now go to the AFE. This is the auto flight attendant. If you were watching the movie Airplane, this is like the balloon guy that sat over there. This is auto. But it's not the autopilot. This is the artificial flight engineer. And all of these switches that you see here, the auto flight engineer is going to help get you started. So let's go ahead and start stuff up. Before start checklists going on, they're going to turn on a bunch of switches. Batteries going on. Turning on lights. Turning on the inverters. Turning on control power systems. So the airplane is now coming to life. Don't know if we're going to hear anything outside the airplane.
Auto in position. Fuel and fluids.
Fuel's loaded.
Pressurization. Set. Manifold and duct pressure. Checked. Radios. Checked. Doors and hatches.
Closing the doors. I am going to set my cabin altitude to 20,000 feet. That's going to be our cruise altitude for today. This is how we pressurize the cabin.
Closed. Door warning lights. Out. Gear pins. Removed. 3 on board. Seat belts and pedals.
There we go, 20,000 feet.
Throttles. Set to idle. Propellers. Forward and 3. Before start checks complete. Start engines.
All right, we're ready to start the engines. What I'm doing right now is I am setting some of my navigation radios here. So I have set the first radio frequency, which is going to be 111.6, and I'm making that our first VOR. This is going to be a VOR to VOR flight. And I'm using the nav log from SkyVector to get my frequencies. My next frequency is going to be 114.4. So 1144 is going to be my next frequency, 114.4, and I'm going to preset this one over here too. 114.4. So I've set my nav radios, both nav1, which is the Garmin, and nav2, which is over here. So all that's good to go. Last thing for me to do is hit the Fly Now button. So that's going to populate some data on top of the screen. That's going to give you an idea of where we're going and how far we've gone and how soon we're going to get there. So now we've got all of that data up there. The doors are now closed. Everything's, I think, ready for pushback right now. And we're going to start the engine. So we're not going to push this thing back first. What we're going to do first is start the engines and then power back with this thing. I don't know how often they really did power backs, but we're going to do that this time because it's relatively cool and fairly novel. So let's go ahead and start the engines. And we start by looking down here. And the mixture is up for engine number 3. That's the first one that we're going to start. Now, this is the simplified start procedure. The real start procedure would be a little more involved than this. I'm just not that good at it yet. So we're going to do the simple start procedure. The ignition is set to both. The start selector is set to engine number 3. The booster pump for 3 is on low. Let's go ahead and before we do that, let's go ahead and pre-position this. There's our big engines. Okay, that's good. Ready to start engines? Let's go ahead. Hit the start button. You're going to hear a voice counting. So when it gets to 9, I'm going to throw on the primer. And when it gets to 12, I'm going to throw on the booster. Here's the start button.
3, 6, 9, 12.
And here goes our engine starting. Okay, so what those numbers were the flight engineer looking out the window and counting the number of props going by before it actually started. Now, one of the things to do on this thing is once you get this thing started, the people from PMDG say go ahead and move your throttle up a little bit and down a little bit so that it ensures that your throttles are synced up with your simulator and you really are at the idle position. Shall we start another engine? Here goes engine number 2. So we're going to get the mixture. And again, this is the simplified version of this. We're going to go mixture rich. We're going to go and get the ignition to both. The start selector to number 4. The number 4 boost pump is going to go to low. Let's go ahead and hit start. Listen for the count.
3, 6, 9,
Primer.
12.
Booster. And there goes our next engine. We got 2 engines going here. Wow, we're cooking with some gas at this point in time. There's terminal stuff in the way here. Terminals and jetways to see the other engines. Okay, let's go ahead and start another engine. So let's look down here. Mixture up. Engine number 2 to both. Engine start selector to number 2. Booster pump is now set to low. Let's do the start.
3, 6, 9,
Primer.
12.
Booster. Hey, there goes another engine. Right on. We've got 3 engines running right now. So everything's good so far. We got 1 more engine to start. Let's go ahead and do another engine. Just waiting for the start switches to get back to normal. There goes that one, and there's the last one. Okay, last engine start. So get the mixture up rich. We're going to switch the ignition over to both. The starter selector to number 1. The boost pumps for fuel to number 1 engine. And start. Here comes the count.
3, 6, 9,
Primer.
12.
Booster. And there we go. There's all of our engines. Okay, so you can see over here, we've got everything nicely set. I'm going to go ahead and just jiggle my throttle one last time to make sure we're really at idle. The real pilots, they're going to be looking at all sorts of stuff here. They're going to look at the oil pressure and the oil temperature. They're going to look down here at cylinder head temperatures. And by the way, you notice we started this engine last. If you look very carefully, this cylinder head temperature has not come up yet. Even that is modeled in this airplane. So, like I said, there is so much in this airplane. All right, I think we're ready to start pushing back. Let's go ahead and do the after start checks.
Start selected boost pumps.
Boost pumps are going off. Battery switch going off.
Plane venting. Generators and inverters. Checked and on. Emergency lights. Armed. Ground power. Removed.
Ground power is disconnected.
After start checks complete.
All right. We're going to be using some of the extra tools that the real pilots didn't have back then. This is Navigraph. These are our charts. Let's go to the LaGuardia Airport chart. Oh, come on. Sometimes Navigraph gets a little bit slow. Really? Come on. You're not going to show this? Sometimes Navigraph is a little bit cranky. It probably wants me to re-log in again. All right, let's go ahead while Navigraph is waking up. What we're going to do is go and we're going to do this power pushback. So make sure you're seated the way you're supposed to be. Feet on the rudder pedals on this one. Throttles are idle and everything looks good. Tow brakes are on. Parking brake is off. Remember that binding I suggested that you set up for the reverser? I just pushed the button. You saw the handle went down. And we're going to go ahead and get the throttles to raise just a little bit. Release the brakes. Look out the side window. Add a little bit of power here. And we're powering back. Do not add a ton of power. You can stand this airplane on the tail if you want. And that's just not good. So you really don't want to stand the airplane on the tail. And Navigraph really has some tude right now. So let's go and see if we can't make NDP charts work today. So while we continue to push back, or stop pushing, I kept my throttles down. We need a little more push. There we go. Just a little bit more pushing. Guess we're getting kind of pushy on this flight today. Okay, well, NDP is going to work for us today, so that's good. Okay, we're back behind the crew line. So throttles to idle. Let's go back in the cabin. Did you see what happened when the throttles went to idle? The little red lever automatically popped up. That is super duper handy. All right, stop the airplane, and it looks like we're good to go there. Okay, here's our charts. The Jeppson's not going to work for us, so we're going to use this one. We are over here at Concourse B. So what we're going to do is to come out of Concourse B, we need to go back around here. So we're going to go to the left and grab this taxiway over here at 8 Alpha. And then we're going to go over here and get on the Alpha taxiway. Alpha taxiway takes us to Golf. We're going to go to Papa. And our departure runway is runway 22. Okay? Got that? Ready to go? All right. Look down here. Parking brake is off. We are ready to go. We're going to add a little bit of power. Look out the side window for reference. That'll let you know that your airplane has started moving. You don't want to taxi too fast with this airplane. And once you start moving, then roll your throttle back a little bit, because once you get it moving, the airplane really wants to taxi fast. Okay, so out we go, and we're going to see if we find that taxiway. It's got a fairly good turning radius. There's the taxiway right there like we were expecting. All right, so we're good to go there. Let's continue taxiing out. Now, we're not going to go and do things like drop our flaps or anything like that right now. We don't want to do that quite yet. We really want to concentrate on the taxi, because this airplane can get you a little out of control on your taxi. And this airplane is so good that you can actually take this thing on VATSIM. And I know I'm looking forward to actually flying this on VATSIM soon. I already have over the weekend. It just wasn't in a big traffic area, and I'm kind of looking forward to taking this on an event. Okay, we are on the Lima taxiway. No, we're not. It's the Bravo. So this is the Bravo taxiway. Add a little bit of power here. The altimeter setting for the airport, I listened to the ATIS before I started the video here, is altimeter is 2968. So the thing is if you look at the altimeter here, it's not in inches of mercury, it's in hectopascals. So one of the other things I'm going to put over in Discord is a conversion chart for setting the altimeter on this one. So there's going to be a conversion chart over there that'll help you out. Okay, as we're coming on up here, remember we're looking for the Romeo taxiway, right? It's Romeo? Yes, Romeo. And that's going to be the turn before we get to the runway. And I think it is coming up fast. Sitting down a little bit low on this one, and LaGuardia is hard to see. So we got a high speed here. You hear the brakes? I've got the toe brakes going. Okay, there's Romeo right there. More brakes. You don't want to take these turns too fast. As I was telling you, there are a lot of rabbit holes that you can jump down in this airplane. And I use the term rabbit holes affectionately in these airplanes. There is a very, very long run-up checklist that you run through. We're not going to go through that right now. But there are a lot of things that you can do, and I definitely suggest you learn them for sure. Okay, so after we take off, our departure heading is going to be to our first checkpoint is going to be 295 degrees. So once we get up here, we got two things to set, and then we get to go. So we're going to get up to the hold short point. You can see the panels shaking a little bit. These old airplanes, they tended to rattle around quite a bit. Okay, looks like we're going to have a little bit of a crosswind from the left. So we need to be ready for a little bit of left crosswind when we're taking off. And we're right on the center line, being a good pilot. We're going to go over here and get ourselves to the hold short line here. Fabulous airplane. The livery, by the way, is consistent with the livery that we would have been flying back in 1953. And we'll take a look at some of that stuff as we get up in the air. Got a little in-flight entertainment coming your way. Again, one of the things is if you're flying along and I get ahead of you a bit, be sure and pause the video and go back if you need to. All right, there we go. Runway 22 and parking brakes. Okay, so let's go down here and parking brakes are on. Okay, remember the heading that I told you? I don't remember it either, so that's why I keep this thing rather handy. The magnetic heading is going to be 295. So we're going to go down here and I'm going to set this to 295 degrees for our heading on departure. There is 295. Okay, that's good. Remember I was telling you about the altimeter? I listened to the ATIS. The altimeter is 2968. The conversion is 0971 on the altimeter. So 0971. There is 0... Well, that doesn't look right. Well, this says the altimeter is 1005. I don't think that this is using something completely different. I don't think hectopascals work on this one. Altimeter is 1005. I've got to study that. Clearly, I'm wrong. You know what you do? Just hit the B button, and that's how you cheat there. Yeah, I'm going to have to cheat a little bit. Okay, let's do before takeoff checks. So they're going to do boost pumps going back on.
Fuel selector and crossfeed. Main tanks and crossfeed off. Autopilot and carb heat.
Off.
Off and cold. Hydraulic system. Down, forward, pressure and quantity checked. Okay. flaps 20.
There goes our flaps. Flaps kind of like hang way down on this airplane.
Closed and on.
Almost done with checklist.
Gust lock released. Free.
Okay, gust lock is released. Now we can actually check
Generator
our controls.
on. Mixture and cowl flaps. Reach unlocked. Set. Transponder
Transponder's down here, by the way.
on. Landing lights.
Landing lights are up here. Landing lights are little things that are dropping down out of the bottom of the airplane.
Extended and on.
There we go.
Before takeoff checks complete.
Okay, parking brake is going to go off. If we were on VATSIM announcing our intentions, we would basically say something like, LaGuardia traffic, United DC6 is taxiing onto runway 22 and taking off west departure, LaGuardia. If you're new to VATSIM, that's called announcing intentions. And that is actually really good practice for if you're going to do, if you're going to start flying around on VATSIM, if you're nervous about talking on the radio. So you'll hear me do that every now and then. We're not on VATSIM right now, but you know, you can fake it and actually practice a bit. So here we are, taxiing out onto the runway. There's runway 22. All right. And brakes. We're going to do what's called a dry takeoff. That doesn't have to do with wet or dry on the runway. That has to do with the weight of your airplane. And there's a whole big explanation about that, but it's pretty good. Okay, throttles are coming up by the flight engineer. Pilot's hands are off the throttles right now. They would be on there to cut the throttles on takeoff.
30 inches.
30 inches.
Stabilized. Cowl flaps. Cowl flaps. Cowl flaps set. Full power, please.
Okay, watch, here comes the manifold pressure is going to go up to plus 40. And there is 40. Get ready to release the brakes. Hands on the stick. And
Full power set.
release the brakes. I'm taking off around 90 to 100 knots on this airplane. There's actually a placard up on the upper panel, and if you know the weight of your airplane and a few other things, you could go and set your own, you could go ahead and set your own V-speeds if you'd like. I'm just cheating and using 90 to 100. Okay, there's 80 knots. 90, there's 100, rotate. Bit of a,
Gear up.
here goes landing gear. Well worth seeing. They did a great job on the animations on this particular airplane. Okay, we are not climbing fast right now. We want to pick up speed, not altitude. Drop the nose a bit. Okay, there's our river. We're going to try and go out over the river. No autopilot yet. Okay, there's a little more of the river there. Our next heading is going to be right around 300.
Flaps up. Flaps going up.
Let's roll out. Heading 300.
Meter power. Setting meter power 48 inches, 2600 RPM.
Actually, 295 is the heading that we wanted. How we doing? Well, relatively close. Okay, our speed's coming up fairly nicely. That's a little closer to
Power
295.
Climb power. City climb power.
Dropping my nose a little bit more to about 1,000 feet per minute. Gently does it with this airplane too, by the way. There's 1,000 feet per minute, holding back on the stick there to hold that. There's climb power, that's looking pretty good. I think it's time to go ahead and start engaging auto here.
After takeoff checklist, please.
And I'm going to go ahead and turn it on, and I'm going to engage the clutch. It's now going to maintain my heading and my current climb, hands off the stick, feet off the rudders. There's our departure. How did we do? Let's go over here and take a look at the map. So there we are. There's our airplane. There is our course heading. We're doing pretty good. Our first stop is the LVZ VOR. The LVZ VOR. And the LVZ VOR, that was one of the frequencies I set, is 111.6. And we should be heading about 295 for that. Let's make sure. 111.6. We're good to go there. Are we receiving? We're receiving something on the secondary VOR, but we want the skinny little one here. So let's go ahead, and since that's a little confusing, let's go to 111.6 here on the backup VOR. And we're just going to pop that in right now. And we're going to wait and see how long it takes for us to start picking up our first radio frequency. Now, I'm going to use this map quite a bit because I'm still a beginner with this airplane, and you should too, to help make sure you are where you're supposed to be. And in fact, you can see I'm a little bit off. So how about a 1 to 2 degree turn to the right? How do we do that? Well, this big knob here. So let's go 1, 2, 3 little clicks on the mouse wheel. And we're going to turn just a little bit. The two bottom heading indicators are moving. That's good. Now, when we're done with that, you see the silver thing here? I call that the quarter. Click the quarter, and that returns the heading knob to 0. Okay, we are climbing just a little bit more than 1,000 feet. I want to climb a little bit slower. So I'm going to push the nose down 3 clicks on that big thumb wheel down there. That's going to decrease the amount of climb. And so that's what the old gyro pilot does. We don't have an autopilot today, we have a gyro pilot. And so that's what's going on. Now we're climbing right around 1,000 feet per minute. That's not bad. And as I said, I think I have totally messed this up. Because that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I have to learn more about the altimeter on this one. Nice departure out in New York City. We can look back over and see the downtown area. You can probably even spot the Statue of Liberty right out there. And there is New York. And this is what this airplane would have been doing if it were 1953. Again, our flight today is a United was basically coast-to-coast business back in 1953. The red lines are United flight lines. We are doing one of their big lines, and this would have been New York to Chicago. It was one-way ticket was $51.85 way back when. Converted over to 2021 dollars, that's about $522.76. The livery that this airplane would have been painted in was called the Masked Mainliner 2. And as you can see, we are flying the Masked Mainliner 2. This is a livery that comes with the airplane, which is really pretty cool. And the livery installs are really nice. When you download this airplane, one of the things that'll happen is a small PMDG desktop application shortcut will be on your desktop. Click that, and you're going to be able to find the liveries easy. We're climbing a little bit more than 1,000 feet per minute, and our speed's a little slow. I'm going to go ahead and drop my climb down to about 600, 700, 800 feet per minute. I want to pick up some speed here. This is a long flight in a prop liner like this. We're a little bit closer to our flight paths, so that's a good thing. Over here, the flight engineer, we've done everything. Our next checklist is going to be cruise. The power's been set for a climb. I want to see this thing climb up there too, right around 200 knots here. So I'm going to continue to drop this down about 3 clicks at a time and see if we can't see the speed go up a bit. Going to 20,000 feet, we have passed 8,000 feet, so we've got a ways to climb here today. Everything's good up here, nothing to do. DC6B, the one that we're flying today, has a range of about 4,100 miles. Thing about that range, though, is you can't be fully loaded. You can either be fully loaded or you can have a range like that, but so you had to carry less passengers and cargo if you wanted to go the full 4,100 miles. Our maximum altitude is about around 25,000 feet. Our max speed is 273 knots. That's 315 miles an hour. Fuel is about 5,000 US gallons, 33,000 pounds. The maximum takeoff weight's 107,000 pounds. Unless you want that full 4,000 miles, then you better cut that back just a little bit. The maximum crosswind landing is 26 knots, which basically is you could have a 26 knot crosswind and still have a reasonable expectation that you're going to be able to stop. And they made 704 DC6s way back when. And just a fabulous looking airplane. We have ended up in some clouds. It's summertime right now in the United States. Anti-ice is a thing on this airplane. And understanding the anti-ice controls is important. Guess who doesn't understand all those yet? So I could be in a little bit of trouble being in these clouds right now, but I think we're going to probably be okay. The anti-ice stuff is down here. So let's see. Carburetor de-icers. Now there's all that. Oh, and by the way, lights, if you're going to fly at night, there's lights all over the place in this airplane. Well, we're climbing pretty good. We're also going to look at the engines. The cylinder head temperatures are a good thing to look at here. We're also going to look at the oil temperature. Kind of make sure all the engines are happy at this point, and they are. We've come out of the clouds. And we're continuing out. We're a little bit now to the north of our flight path. So I'm going to go ahead and do a slight turn here. Back to about 295. That's good. Hit the quarter. Zero out the turn. Just want to stay as close to the line as I can until we're picking up our first VOR. And we're going to know that because we're going to see this little needle point straight ahead, and you'll also notice some other numbers that appear here. That's our DME. That measures miles. We are at 10,000 feet right now. So I'd like a little more speed. I just clicked that little thumb knob down even more. Now I'm going to climb at about 500 feet per minute now, so I can get my speed up to about 200 knots. Again, we got a long way to go and not much time to get there, so we're going to do what they say can't be done. We're going to climb at 500 feet, and that's about all the jerry read that you're going to get out of me on this video. Still keeping an eye out on my VOR. See if we can't pick that up soon. Now I think I've turned a little bit too far. So 3 knots. Let's go ahead back to, instead of 2.9, how about 3.1? Okay, that's good. Let's try the quarter now. On the gyro pilot, you know that the gyro pilot is a happy gyro pilot if that blue light is on. So we've got a red light, and that's bad. Blue light, that's good. The gyro pilot controls are mostly down here. So you've got, let's see, we'll go back a little bit. We have gyro pilot on, We have altitude control, which is essentially altitude hold. And then down here at the bottom, that's sort of like clutch. It's either autopilot on or off. So you turn it on electrically, but then you also throw the lever, and that's what connects it to your controls. Not like just hitting the red button over on the Airbus. We're going to see that climb and descent meter bounce around, but you can see we're still climbing fairly high. So another 1, 2, 3 little clicks there on the altitude control there, which is basically just it's repitching the elevator control. Another big flash. We've got thunderstorms out there. Actually, we do have a fairly decent line of thunderstorms. Okay, all that's looking good. 12,000 feet. We're going to 20,000 feet on this flight today. Got 200 knots indicated. Boy, is that nice. We have 2 hours and 28 minutes to fly. 2 hours and 28 minutes on this flight. Don't worry, you're not going to have to sit here for 2 hours and 28 minutes. About halfway through the flight, we're going to hit the pause button and pick it up about 70 miles outside of Chicago. So we're going to go and get to the first VOR. We're going to turn to the second VOR. We'll hit the pause button and fly the flight. And that's kind of how we'll go about doing this. As far as the weather that we're expecting to see along the route today, as I zoom this out, we do have some thunderstorms that we're going to have to watch out for. Hopefully 20,000 feet is going to be good enough. Might not be. Might be asking for trouble with that big front. I don't think that they would have gone south. It could be they would have routed them up north here, up near Toronto to go around the flight. I'm not sure what they would have done way back when. I'm using the NDP charts for this particular ride. So one of the things we can do is go to LaGuardia, and we're going to get the, so there are, now actually Midway, and we're going to get the ILS for runway 31 center. So this is our approach. We don't need any of the other charts. We just need this one. I'm also going to go and get an airport ground chart for Midway. And what I'm doing is clicking these and sending these to the kneeboard, and we're going to get a parking chart too. There's the gates. So over here, I had LaGuardia ground map. We now have the ILS. We have the airport map, and we have gates. That's really all we're going to need for this particular flight, because we don't do RNAV stuff. We don't get to go to different checkpoints and things like that. Still keeping an eye down here on this lower VOR when the little needle comes to life, and we're about halfway there, so I'm expecting the little needle to come to life here any minute now. Still climbing a little more than 500 feet per minute. I'm going to go ahead and drop this down just a little. 2 clicks. Let's live dangerously and do 3 clicks on the mouse wheel. Oh, look at that. See? We just got the ILS, the VOR. We picked it up. We're 39 miles out. How are we doing? Well, we're right on our right on the path. So I'm going to just do a fine-tuning adjustment here. And now we're going to go down. The gyro pilot's in control, but I'm going to go and switch this thing. So if you look down here, it says gyro pilot, localizer, and approach. So I'm going to go to localizer. And localizer is going to keep us flying that beam for the next 37 miles. Approach would have flown us on a glide slope too. So, and here we are. So we've come out of New York City, and we're coming on over here to our first VOR. So that's good. Now, next thing to do is after we go to that VOR, we're going to go to another VOR. So you remember I set a new a second VOR up here, 114.4. There it is. That's going to be the next checkpoint in the sky. So 114.4. 114.4 is there. Let's go 114.4 here. And I'm going to set that in the backup. In the second nav radio, nav 2. So now you see the needle down here is pointed straight ahead. That's going to our first VOR station. The next one, when the needle here with the double lines, when it becomes alive, that means the airplane is picking up our next checkpoint in the sky. Now there's going to be a couple times that we're going to leave the VOR that we're passing over, and we won't have radio contact with the next one. So we'll have to do some guesstimate flying there too. But that's one of the things that they did. That is one of the things that they did. We are passing 4,000 feet, climbing at about 500 feet per minute. Our speed's about 210. That's about as good as it gets there. Outside the airplane we go. Let's go look through the cabin for a second. We've got a few seconds here. We've got about 20 miles. So I'm going to go to the showcase camera, and I'm going to dial the showcase down to about barely moving. And let's go on down to the airplane here. We're going to actually fly through it. And there's our cabin. So we got some bathrooms here. It's going to float around because, again, we're flying along here in the showcase cam. And we're kind of going up and down. So the showcase cam's going to go up and down. But we can kind of zip through the cabin just a bit here. The galley. There's the coat rack. They actually had a nice coat rack. Here's our galley. There is the main door to the airplane. And look at all that legroom. Holy cats. Legroom and 2x2 seating. Whatever happened to those days, right? Boy, wouldn't that be nice. It's kind of hard, but you can go over here. And we can slide over like this. And we can turn over here and look out the window. And it's going to flap up and down a little bit, but there's the view outside. And there's the really big engines. I think these are the Wasp radial engines. And there's two radial engines essentially attached together, I believe. Oh, by the way, if you're going to take off at night, these little holes back here, keep an eye on those for a nighttime departure. You'll see fire and sparks and stuff coming out of those. We do not have the old we do not have swept-back wings on this, do we? This is an old, slow prop liner, so they don't sweep back like they do in the jets for sure. Let's go back into the cockpit. It's probably getting close to time for us to do our... we got 22 miles, so we have plenty of time here. We're still not picking up our next VOR station. We are climbing at about 300 feet per minute. So now that's a little bit slow. So how about if we come down here and just click it up 1 and let it pick that climb up just a bit there. We'll trade maybe 5-10 knots at the most, but we can get up a little bit higher to our 20,000 feet. It's pretty smooth. Really kind of nice out here. Very nice. So today, before we get on an airplane, we'd probably go to, every airport's got a Starbucks or a coffee shop. So we'd go and get ourselves coffee. These days, we would get a tall, a grande, or a venti. In the old days, it had been small, medium, and large. But there had to have been a passenger way back when that would have ordered a large coffee and is sitting back there in their seat, just absolutely dying because they had too much coffee. When are they going to turn the seatbelt sign off? Let's be nice to the person that got the extra large instead of the medium. Seatbelts can go off now. You only make that mistake once, by the way, as an airline passenger. Only once. Engines are looking good. Now, as you slowly dive down some of the rabbit holes, One of the things that PMDG is going to suggest is that you definitely want to make sure that you're checking some of these engines, the cylinder head temperatures. Over here, the oil pressure and oil temperature, those are big deals on this airplane. You'll also do a quick check here of the fuel. So you can see my auxiliary tanks are empty. We're not doing a long haul here, so no reason for auxiliary fuel. But 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks are doing really good. We got plenty of fuel there, so that's good news. All the lights are off. How we doing here? 13 miles to our turn. So I've got a little thing that I usually do for the turns here. I will show you what I do. That's not perfect, but it does tend to work a little bit. We're going to wait another 2 miles, and then I'll start the turn procedure. Now, of course, in you know, if we had the McDo and all that other stuff, we would have had all this programmed in, and LNAV would have taken care of us. In an airplane like this, the pilot is LNAV, and to be honest, VNAV probably too. So there's 10.9 miles. So 10 miles out, we are really doing good. We're pointed right to the VOR. So let's look down here, and remember this little button here? Remember that one? Called Gyro Pilot Localizer? We're in Localizer, so it's following the beam now. I'm going to turn it back to Gyro Pilot, which means that now the airplane's just holding the current heading. Our next course heading is over here. So we are going to LVZ VOR, and we're going to FQM. The magnetic heading's going to be 278. This all of that chart that I'm going off of, I did that a day ago. So those winds aren't good. So really we need to go with the 278 degree heading to start, and then we'll just play with it as it goes. The real pilots would have been doing track and heading and variation, but for us, we're just going to go and do 278 as our next heading. So what I'm going to do is dial this over to 278. So there is 280, 279, 278. There we go. We have 6 miles. When we get to about 2.5 miles out, I'm going to start my gentle turn to a heading of 278 degrees. Here's where we are. We're coming up to our VOR station, and so that's how that's going to work. Best laid plans, of course, because I'm still learning on this airplane. 5 miles out, so I'm watching my DME. We're 5 miles from the station. My little trick right now is about 2 miles. We're 17,000 feet, going up to 20,000 feet. Starting to see our airspeed drop. Now our airspeed has dropped to about 200 knots. So after we make this turn and get all set up on our next course heading here, we'll go ahead and start to slow our ascent even more. There's 3.7. Okay, very difficult maneuver here. We're going to turn the airplane, so we ought to have a cup of coffee here. Very difficult maneuver, not at all. Okay, there's 3. I just wanted an excuse for coffee. 2.9, 2.8, 7, 6, and 2.5. We're over the VOR. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to turn to a heading of 278 degrees. So there's our turn. There is 290. You know what? I'm going to, well, that's probably okay. That's good. I'm going to stop that. I don't want to overturn here. There we go. I'm going to have to turn back just a little bit. And again, I'm using my moving map over on Sim Toolkit Pro. Okay, that's good. Hit the quarter. Now, we're not tracking to our next station. We haven't even picked up our next station yet. So we'll wait till we pick up the next station, and we'll know that happens when that little thing there starts pointing straight ahead. Let's take a look at how we did on the turn. Okay, went out a little bit more, but we're actually doing pretty good, and we're on it. We may be turning into this just a little bit here, so maybe we could do a degree or two to the right. So, we got a thunderstorm up ahead of us too. So how about a degree or two to the right? 1, 2, 3. That's good. Hit the quarter. Okay, so I think we're established there. Next step is we are now 2,000 feet away from our final climb, for our final cruising altitude. So now we want to go and we want to get this rate of ascent to be between 100 and 200, you know, somewhere down to about 100. So what I'm going to do is come down here and we're going to click this down to. Let's see what it does. Again, 100 to 200 feet is all we want. We're also past 18,000 feet. .1013 is I think what I need to plug in there. So we're past transition altitude in the United States. Okay, we're climbing at about 100 feet or less. We're not going down. This is actually really, really good. So we're going to inch our way up to 20,000 feet. We're actually doing way too good on that one. Let's go up one click. Oh, and did you see this? We're picking up our new VOR station. So let's go over here and flip the radio. Okay, 114.4. Okay, we're now on course to our new station. Now I'm going to just go and center this up because we're right on our course heading. So I'm going to center that up there like that. That's pretty good. And we're going to go down here and we're going to turn it over to the localizer control. It's going to follow that in for the next 37 miles. Okay, let's go here and I'm going to go up just a little bit more, 2 clicks. Because we still have 200 feet to, 2,400 feet to go. And now we're heading directly to our next station. But we're not done yet. So we're going to FQM. Our next station is SFK. That's 108.6. So what we're going to do is go over here. And it is 108.6 on the standby. 108.6. And I'm going to put that in the active for the for COM2, which means when the arrow with the 2 lines goes straight up, it means we're receiving it. So that's my little way of dealing with that. Okay, we are slowly coming up, not so bad. We could probably be climbing a little bit faster, but I'm not going to whine too much about it because this airplane is cranky. At least, especially when we go from a climb to altitude hold. So this is actually the perfect speed for that. So we're just going to leave this alone and let it climb. We got 1,000 feet to go. And if you wonder what the excitement's all about, you look out the window and it's sort of like, wow, look at that amazing scenery, which is photo real. We just left Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And we are slowly coming out here. Wilkes-Barre, New York, I mean. Well, wait a minute. No, we were closer to Scranton. So that was... Anyway, this is what it would look like outside the window of an airplane right now. You combine this kind of awesome scenery with an airplane like this. And as I've been saying, this airplane... now takes Microsoft Flight Simulator out of the game zone and puts it into the serious simulation zone. And I have a feeling that the airplanes that are going to be coming out for Microsoft Flight Simulator are going to be as good, if better, than this. And we've already got some good airplanes, as I think I just said a little bit ago. We've got the CJ4. That's a free update that you can get. We've got the CRJ, That is a payware, but it is a very nicely done payware. We've got the work that the people at Fly-by-Wire are doing on the Airbus A320neo, and it is it keeps getting better by the week. It keeps getting better by the week. So now you add the PMDG DC6, and we're getting really good simulators. So if you're brand new to flight simulation, this is a game you want to play, you can hop in the Cessna, you can go in the TBM, you can go and do the stunt flying, you can pick yourself up a Spitfire and just buzz around to your heart's content. But if you want to do the serious, crunch the numbers, do a flight, this airplane opens the door for that sort of thing. So the flight sim geeks are extremely happy. Okay, we're looking good. 24 miles. Our next turn is going to be, so at FQM, we are going to turn to a heading of 294 degrees. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this over here. I'm just going to put that over there for a while. So 294 is going to be our next heading. We are 22 miles out, so the procedure is going to be about the same. Put this into gyro pilot mode, dial in the new heading, wait till we get closer, make the turn, and we'll be good. Passing 19,300 feet. We're not climbing very fast, though. So I'm going to go ahead and click this up just a bit. Just one. See what happens. Yeah, it's going to wobble a little bit there. But hopefully we continue the climb to 20,000 feet. Again, this airplane will go up to 25,000 feet. It is pressurized. So we are pressurizing the cabin today for 20,000 feet to about 7,000 feet. So that's going to make the passengers a little bit happier. They're not going to be passing out. Blood's not coming out of their ears and nose because of lack of, cabin pressure. And we're still kind of wobbling here, so how about one more click of the climb? 17 miles out. So this is what you do. You would be constantly... This is not program the McDo and fly. This airplane keeps you just doing all sorts of interesting sorts of things. The real world flight that we are shadowing right now, United flight, let's see, 623. It would have taken off out of LaGuardia at 1 o'clock Eastern time, and it's supposed to be landing at about 3:05 Central time. So we're obviously not going super duper fast. SimBrief's got our flying time right at about 3 hours and 5 minutes, and that's gate to gate time. So hopefully you brought plenty of reading materials and stuff like that. Well, we're still not doing too well in the climb here. Our speed's going down, so let's go ahead and click this 3 up. 1, 2, 3. It actually helps to click it up, not down. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it actually helps to dial it the right way. All sorts of amateur mistakes today. We're 12 miles out, so it's about time for us to get ready for our next turn. We're in the vicinity of a thunderstorm, by the way. On the map. In fact, the thunderstorm is right ahead. That may very well be it there. So the way thunderstorms work, lots of air whooshing up. It's called convection. Lots of air whooshing up, getting really cold, and then whooshing down again. So if you're wondering, this is kind of the reason probably why we're popping up and down as much. Okay, there's 10 miles. This is when I usually go and go back to gyro pilot. I look over at my flight plan. FQM to SFK is a heading of 294 degrees. So let's go ahead and dial our next heading to Okay, there's 30. And there's 294. Okay, so we got 9 miles to go. We're going to make the turn a little bit sharper because it's a sharper turn. We'll wait until 3 miles, and I think we should be good. Okay, we're getting close. So we're within 200 feet. So now I'm going to go down here, and now we'll push the nose down 1. And it's too late for that. Let's go ahead and hit altitude hold. Altitude hold. It's going to wobble, but we're at 20,000 feet. Let's let it stabilize just a bit. And it's going to wobble probably because of that thunderstorm. We're 6 miles out. Let's go ahead and get the flight engineer doing something. Cruise checklist.
Cruise power, please. Setting cruise power.
6 miles out. And you can hear the engines coming back a little bit. By the way, this seat right here, you pop that out, that's where the flight engineer sits, right there. And the flight engineer does all the engineering with the throttles and the mixture and everything in that seat.
Cruise power is set.
Okay, we're 4 miles out. We're picking up our next radio station. We're picking up SFK radio. The VOR. I call them radio stations. 4 miles out.
Cruise checks are complete.
We're in cruise mode. So there's 4 miles. Again, I'm doing this at about 3.5. 3.7, 6, 5. I'm clicking it 4 times over, and we're going to turn and point ourselves right towards that radio station. There's that big thunderstorm that I'm seeing over on radar, which is really cool, seeing a real-world thunderstorm like that. Okay, we're passing the old radio station, the old VOR. We're coming up on the new one, getting ready to go ahead and hit the button, the quarter. I don't know if it's an actual quarter, that's just what I call it. Our turn's really nice. Okay, that's good, and there's the quarter. Now let's go ahead and flip the radios. There is our new radio going to SFK 108.6. 108.6. Now let's just go ahead and I'm going to center this up over here because we're heading right towards it. We're right on our path. Let's just do it that way. And let's put it back into gyropilot mode. We're at cruise. We're heading to our next radio station. The next radio station after that's 109.4. So let's go ahead and 109.4, 109.4, and we're going to click that button right there. Looking over here, you can see up there's the thunderstorm that I was yammering about. Here is our next checkpoint in the sky. We're right on the line, so not so bad. The turn was pretty close to right over the radio station, about 2.5, 3 miles out. That's not a bad deal either. And so this is what we'll do. And as you can see, we've made our way out of New York. We got to go through this line of thunderstorms here. And then over the Great Lakes, over the southern portion of Michigan, and right into the Chicagoland area. So we'll continue just a little bit here. I want to see what happens with these thunderstorms. I think that we're above them. I think we're okay. We'll see. We are now 28 miles away from our next radio station, so that's good. Outside, the airplane looks good. There is a line of showers and thunderstorms ahead of us, though. It looks like the strongest is going to be up to the north. I'm not seeing a bunch of holes in radar, but I do think that we are above them. So hopefully we're, not all going to die. We are in cruise mode, so that's good news. Our airspeed right now, 190 or so. But I think we're going over the ground at about 233 knots. So not the fastest we could go, but pretty good. We're heading right to the new radio station. That's good too. I think the passengers back in the airplane are doing really good, enjoying their mainliner service. That's what United used to call it. All of their airplanes were called mainliners. And their 3-hour flight, they probably are getting some food. They're probably serving some drinks and stuff like that too. I hope the passengers bought some books with them or something. They didn't have iPads or movies out there. But way back when, if you were going to be watching movies back in this day, you would have been watching movies like Stalag 17, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and The War of the Worlds. Not the one with Tom Cruise, the one with Gene Barry and Anne Robinson were in The War of the Worlds. And long before we were arguing about whether there was room for Leonardo DiCaprio to be on the board with Kate Winslet, another movie called Titanic came out in 1953, starring Barbara Stanwyck and Clifton Webb. Music that you would have been listening to was Joni James, Percy Faith, and Perry Como was what you would have been listening to there. You would have also been listening to the song you're hearing now, Oh, by Pee Wee Hunt, whose real name was Walter Gerhardt. And that's who is doing this song, Oh. As we continue with our flight, this is about the point where I'm going to be hitting the pause button and check in with you when we're about 7,500 miles away from Chicago. Hey there, welcome back to the Friendly Skies. We are on our way down into the Chicagoland area. It's great that you were able to come back. Thank you for sticking with me, of course. You just left a few seconds ago because of the magic of the pause button, but for me it's been well over an hour. And we had a in-flight incident that happened while you were gone too. Let's go into the cockpit, see if there's any residual, if there's anything outside. Nope, you can't see a thing, but we really iced up over South Central Michigan just a little bit ago. I mean, there was ice everywhere, so we had to turn a bunch of anti-ice stuff on right about here near some of these thunderstorms. We are coming up on the Gipper VOR here to deal with the ice. Some of the things that I did is we went over here and we turned on the wing and propeller anti-ice, so that took care of that. As far as the windshield, I couldn't find the windshield heat yet, so I'm going to have to dig that up. But the big thing I did was descend down. This is the free air gauge right here. I descended down below freezing. Or above, or, you know, got to the freezing point. So I descended down to where the freezing air went away, and that cleared off my windshield really pretty quick. So right now I'm at about 8,900 feet. I stopped there. We are 8 miles away from Gipper. So just like I've been doing with the other stuff, we're going to go over here and we're going to put this the gyro pilot over into gyro pilot mode. Take it out of boy, I can't remember my words right now. Localizer mode, thank you. Our inbound course to Midway is going to be 277 degrees. So let's see, 277 is what we're going to be doing. I'm going to just call it 270 degrees to make it just a little easier to remember. We are at 9,000 feet. We're going to have to go down to about 5,000 feet to find the to find the localizer. So we got a ways to go here, but not far. In fact, we're just ready to go over the south of the lake here, Lake Michigan. So, yep, there's Lake Michigan right there. There's Chicago. And remember, we're not going to O'Hare. We're going down here to Midway. So as soon as we get past Gipper, we'll turn about 270 degrees and start heading in and see what kind of trouble we can get into. Still was unable to figure out what was going on with my Navigraph. So Navigraph seems to have an attitude with me right now. Don't know what to do about it, but there you go. And we are 3 miles out, so we'll wait until the arrow starts, till the arrow disappears and we fly over the station, which usually happens right about now, and then we'll turn to 270. Almost immediately. Almost immediately. Don't make, yeah, it's gonna say, haha, you said that, so we're gonna not do it this time. There's 2.3 miles out. At least swing around and be nice to me that way. Let's see here. After that, I've already dialed in the localizer. Up, there we go. Coming across. And that looks good. 1.5. 1.4. And swinging around. And there it goes. It disappeared, so we're over it. So at this point, I like to go down here. We're going to make a gentle turn to the right here, but not much of one. Whoops, finger was in the wrong space. Hitting the wrong key. That's good enough. Hit the quarter, and we are good to go. I've already checked the altimeter, and I did not. I went and looked stuff up. That is indeed hectopascals. I just don't know how to read the freaking chart. So I was reading this column. I should have read this column. And that was it. So there we go. We're going to go ahead and see if we get back on the 270 degree radio. Up here on the radios, I've got 109.9 already dialed in. I've got it dialed in here. That is the ILS frequency for the runway. Latest weather information in the Chicagoland area is winds 320 at 13, gusting to 23. So almost right down the runway, but as usual in Chicago, it's getting a little on the windy side. We've got scattered clouds at 6,000. It is broken up to 20,000 feet. It's 22 degrees, dew points 5. Altimeter is 2978. That translates to 1009 in the hectopascal range. We have done most of the descent, but we're going to wait until we get about halfway, sort of halfway across the lake. I'm going to go, and I'm still eyeballing our position here. We want to get down somewhere right around here, so to be able to intercept the ILS at 5,000 feet. The ILS here is just your basic simple one here. We'll come in here at hills. We want to be at 5,000 feet. Then it's 4,000 feet, and on in we go. There is the setting. There's the inbound course, 318 degrees. Remember, the winds are 320, 318, kind of almost down the runway. Minimums for here, a localizer DME is 1,200 feet. We're not doing a real Category 1 DME. I don't think this thing does categories. Maybe it does, and I've got to read some more. Boy, that's one of the things I've found out. I've got lots of reading to do. Okay, so everything looks good here. Outside, the airplane is just looking good. There was ice all over the wings, though, but fortunately I got the wing anti-ice on. I also turned on the carburetor anti-ice, just in case. So I've got that going. The VOR is behind us. We're going to wait until this thing activates, the VOR2, and that way we know that we'll be in range of the ILS. So at this point in time, there's not much else to do. We'll start our descent. As far as the flight engineer, we're still in cruise mode. We'll do the descent checklists when we go ahead and get into that final plunge. And I'm going to wait until we get a little bit closer to the middle of the lake on that one. Nothing much else going on here. As far as pressurization, after we drop down, I guess I should probably drop this down. So we should probably drop this down to 9,000 feet because that's our current altitude. I don't know if you need to do that, if that's just the top end, but we were pressurized to 7,000 feet, and now that we're at 9,000 feet, we probably ought to decrease that. That way it's easier to open the doors. And maybe that also keeps the passengers' ears from popping. Who knows? So let's see, what else can we chat about here? I think that's about it. We're 13 miles from the Gipper VOR. We're about ready to go out over Lake Michigan again. Of course, we can't see anything. That seems to be my curse. When I'm flying over a scenery area that I really like, there's almost always nothing to see except a layer of clouds. Important safety tip as you come into a busy metro area like the Chicagoland area in Microsoft Flight Simulator, there is a lot of scenery that this thing is going to be loading and processing and everything. So get set up for your approach as quickly as you possibly can. Because the computer's going to be busy, and you kind of risk a CTD or something like that if, not necessarily a crash or something like that, but you do risk the possibility of some sort of a crash or a problem if you're zipping around the cockpit. You're looking over here, looking down here, looking over there, and it's trying to get the Chicago scenery loaded in. I think that kind of becomes a bit of a problem at that point. So I tend to try and get stuff set up if I'm going into a big area like New York and stuff like that as quickly as I can, so that as I'm flying into New York, I'm not moving around that much. Speaking of moving around, while we were going and while the video was on pause, I started planning next week's flights. Of course, this was a real-world United Airlines flight, and you see all those red lines over there on the map? Well, I've gone and plotted next week's flights on the Spy Flight using the original timetable. And so as far as next week's flights, we're going to be doing this flight live on the live stream tomorrow. Then we'll do Chicago, Omaha, and Denver. That is a real old school United flight. That's Wednesday. Thursday, Denver, Salt Lake, and San Francisco. That's a real United old school flight. And then on Friday, we'll do San Francisco, Portland, and Seattle. The website that Olympic One is one of the people that flies along with me on Twitch. Olympic One found a website where there's all sorts of really cool timetables. And this airplane comes with liveries for Olympic Airlines, for Pan Am Airlines, I think American Airlines, and all of those old timetables are there. So you can find the actual routes that this airplane would have flown, and you can fly them. So that's what we're going to do for the rest of the week here. We'll either do a Pan Am route or a Olympic route on Saturday. Maybe Olympic on Saturday, since Greek island hopping happens on Sunday. Okay, I'm just turning a few degrees over here, not much, but I'm just turning a few degrees over there. And I'm eyeballing my map over there too, because I'm not coming in on a VOR at the moment. So I'm cheating a bit. If there are questions and comments that you might have had about this particular flight or anything in there, I'm still relatively new in the world of YouTube video, so I'm still one of those people that reads all the comments that comes in and considers myself lucky to get a comment. If you've got comments or questions, please put them in comments. I will read them and respond. If you'd rather, come on over to Twitch and we can chat about stuff. I'm going to be flying this airplane all this week and probably next week too. So that might help out. If you liked what you saw here today, I'm also so new on YouTube that none of this is monetized. If you really liked it and wanted to show some support, then come on over to Twitch. Do a subscription or a donation or something like that. Or just come on over and say hi. That would be really nice too. Say you saw the video. That's a time that you could possibly ask questions and make some comments. If there was something that I did that was particularly stupid, you could certainly mention that at the time. Okay, we're now coming out over the lake. Let's go ahead and get set for 5,000 feet. So to do that, I'm going to go over here and we're going to dial this down. I'm going to click the mouse wheel 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and that's going to start a bit of a descent. You know why it's not going to start a descent? Because the pilot's an idiot. We're going to go and we're going to turn off altitude hold. Then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to start our descent. Lots more buttons on this airplane than you have to push in your basic Airbus. So there you go. So now we're going down. Let's go over here and get the flight engineer. Keep calling him the flight attendant, the flight engineer, and do the descent checklist.
26 inches, please. Setting 26 inches.
Thought it was a little quiet. One of the things is while the flight engineer's been moving my throttles,
Descent checklist.
I haven't touched my throttles on this airplane since we took off.
Altimeters and flight instruments.
So I've got my throttles set about,
Seatbelt signs on.
a third of the way up.
Engine blower is
Because
low.
when we start putting the landing gear down, we will have control of throttles for
Descent checks are
landing.
complete.
Descent checks are complete. We're in good shape. Okay, we're 32 miles out. I think we're doing pretty good here. I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to get the in-range stuff going on now, too. You can't do this sooner rather than later. We also need to be going down a little faster here. We need to be down at 5,000 feet. We're halfway over the lake.
Fuel tank selectors. Mains on. Crossfeed off. Hydraulic bypass valve.
Everything's good up there. They've turned on seatbelts.
No smoking signs. On.
There's no smoking signs.
In-range checks complete.
Okay, we're in range, and that's good. Okay, we're still waiting for this one to pop up. As soon as this thing pops up, we're gonna, that's our VOR. That's our ILS. Okay, descending pretty good. Let's continue to make our descent go a little bit faster. I'd rather go down about 1,000 feet per minute at the moment. We need to get down to 5,000 feet. That is the minimum altitude, the mandatory altitude for starting this ILS approach. And then, of course, as soon as we get down to 7,000 feet, I'll start slowing the descent so that we can go into altitude hold mode. This is a high-maintenance airplane. As we're coming in, you're going to notice these lights going off, outer, middle, and inner markers as we come into land. So you'll see those flashing at us just a bit. Also go over here and take a quick look at the chart again. The inbound course for this landing is going to be 318 degrees. Let's go ahead and dial in 318 on the OBS. So there's there's 315, 6, 7, 8. 318 is good. So that's now set for the ILS. 7,000 feet. Now I want to go ahead and go with the nose up. 2, 3, 4, 5. And start getting ourselves to a point where it's about 500 feet per minute. Things are going to start happening fast. There we are. So there is our ILS approach. I'm going to try and get us out a little bit further between Evergreen Park and Dalton here. Still have the other ILS set up in there, the other VOR set up. Still coming down nicely. 42 miles out of the Gipper VOR. Gipper was, how far was Gipper? Gipper is 64 miles away from the airport. So we can do some subtraction, and we're probably, what, 6, 5, about 20 miles out now. So at this point in time, if we were on VATSIM and I was just announcing intentions, I would say something along the lines of, Midway traffic, United DC6 on a 20-mile final. We're out west over the lake, setting up for the ILS 3-1 center, Midway. Those are the kinds of things that you would say when you're announcing intentions, and when you're doing announcing intentions, what's really good about that is you're practicing how you would talk on the radio when you do actually start talking to controllers. I think that that's a really good way to get started doing VATSIM. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to turn ourselves in just a little bit. 1, 2, 3. Not much, just a little bit. That's enough. I think that flying VOR to VOR like this really was sort of like, that's good, that feels good there. Okay, let's go up a little bit. and get ourselves to about 200 feet per minute, coming up on our 5,000 feet here. Look at that, we got an ILS. We are, let's go ahead and flip the radios around. So let's flip this one over there. There is the ILS set. And 17 miles out. We were pretty good about our 20 miles. So we're good to go there. And we're coming to 5,000 feet, so that's good. We're coming down. We could probably slide this down a little more. So we're descending at about 300 feet per minute. That'll be good. We only have a localizer. We do not have glide slope yet. So we're not close enough to pick up the glide slope on this one. Yeah. Nose up just a little bit more. And probably another 2 clicks on that nose up. As we approach 5,000 feet, this is going to get us close to our little spot here. We're 14 miles out. Hills is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, is 14 miles out on the DME. We are coming up pretty close. We're coming up pretty close here. Up, look at that, we got glide slope. There's glide slope now. So we're a little high. I'm gonna go ahead and let it continue to go down now, because we're really close. So let's go down just a little bit more. You can see some nice scenery outside. There's Chicago, but boy, are we busy here. Okay, we're still a little high here. Down we go. Okay, I think I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna run the before landing checks.
Flaps 20. Setting flaps 20.
Okay, I'm keeping an eye on the localizer part. We're still a little bit high at the moment. Still pitching us down here. See if we can't catch up with that. We should be coming up on the localizer any second, at which point I'm going to put it in localizer mode. Okay, we actually have control of the throttles now, so I'm going to go ahead and reduce my throttles a bit. Because we got some pretty good speed to bleed off here, and we're also going down quite a bit. Still watching for that localizer to start swinging over, and it's going to probably be fast. Okay, here comes the localizer. That's coming up. Good. Okay, let's go ahead and start going up just a little bit so we can bleed off some speed. We're catching up there. That's good. Keeping an eye on this a little bit closer. And what I'll do is, as soon as we get close enough, I'm going to flip the switch and have the autopilot grab us. Well, we'll see if I can have the autopilot grab it. There it goes. I'm going to put it in approach mode and see if it grabs glide slope and localizer for us. There's our turn. I got the airport, got the runway ahead. Do you see it? There's it. There it is. Okay, it's going to yell at me a little bit about the throttle there, but we're going way too fast here. I got to start bleeding this speed off because they're not lowering the gear or anything yet. So I've got the little horn going right now saying, hey, you're idling a little bit too much.
Masters Ridge, please. Auto Ridge. Masters set. Gear up and down, please. Gear up and down.
Here comes our landing gear. Yep, the flight engineer takes care of that for you too, which is really good. See, it looks like I've been hitting a couple of overloads on the recording. I'm sorry about the hesitations that you may be getting.
Gear down and locked, 3 greens.
Another notch flaps.
2400 RPM. 2400 RPM set. Cow flaps. Plus 3 degrees. Cow flaps set. ADI. ADI off. ADI is off. Landing lights. Speed good. Extending lights.
It's going to add a little bit of power now.
Carbine. Carbine cold.
Flaps are 30.
Set cold. Before landing checks complete.
We're good to go. Gear is down. Flight engineer took care of that. Let's add another notch of flaps. So flaps are way out now. Way out. All right, we're looking good. Let's go ahead and we're going to disengage the clutch. Disengage auto. Captain has the airplane. What could possibly go wrong? We've got, let's see, we're getting a little bit low, so let's add a little bit of power here. And we're getting blown off to the side a little bit because it is windy in Chicago. Okay, now we're coming up fairly nicely. And now is the time when we concentrate. Okay, there's middle marker. Reduce the throttle a bit, start going down a little faster. We're a little high now. Okay, terminal and exiting to the right. Remember that button I told you about for reversing the props? See how busy we are? We don't have time to reach down with our views and stuff. Reversers on the ground. Braking. Welcome to Midway. Not a bad landing, if I do say so myself. Landing rate minus 312. That's pretty good with this airplane. I've been mostly in the 3 zone for these landings, so I guess that's about as good as it gets. We are coming up on the Bravo taxiway here, so we're going to take Bravo into the gate. Look at the wind, see the windsock over there. It's really kind of blowing around. Okay, let's exit the runway here. I need to get one of the replays, I think, now for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Okay, we're going to add just a little bit of power. We'll look down here, do after landing. Flight engineer is going to work for that. One of the things that might be kind of nice would possibly be one of the things that would be nice is to be able to auto advance the flight engineer with a keyboard button.
After landing checks complete.
That might be nice. Okay, we're going to go by these hangars over here and go into the terminal. I don't think I've ever figured out where United parked in the old days here of Midway. I think that the terminal that we're going to probably wasn't there at the time. That one's pretty modern. Okay, so we're crossing over 13 left. We're going to be taking November to Papa. So that's going to be our next spot here. Flaps are up. Everything's looking good here. There's another windsock to show you how windy it is. The airport here, Midway, is a freeware that you can go and get at flightsim.to. So you can go ahead and grab this airport. It's very nice. Lots of really good free stuff has popped up at flightsim.to. Okay, we are looking for Papa. Not sure. I may have missed it here. That might have been Papa over there. No, maybe not. Do we actually go over? Yeah, missed Papa there. So the next one is November. Let's just go straight across like this, and we'll go into the terminal this way. We'll get a little bit more of a tour of Midway. They'd probably have us not go over on that runway over there, so we're not going to do that. So, yeah, that's November. November is going to take us into the taxi, into the terminal area. This is a fabulous airplane. I hope you got a little bit of something good out of this. I certainly hope so. I hope you also have an awful lot of fun with this airplane. I think that this airplane, as I've said, really takes Microsoft Flight Simulator to a new level that flight sim people who know a little bit more about airplanes, you know, enough to make them dangerous, I guess is the way to put it, really happy. And I think that this airplane kind of is just boosted Microsoft Flight Simulator up quite a bit. So I hope you enjoy it too. I will look forward to seeing you over on VATSIM. As the time that I'm recording this, there is still the bug. The multiplayer bug is still out there. So we still got to worry about the multiplayer bug. But I'm going to guess that probably within about 5 minutes of me saying this right now, the fix will be validated and ready to go. So I think that that's going to be really, really nice to get back and get this thing into the multiplayer zone. We're going to go over and grab gate Bravo 9 here. Probably ought to try and get on the taxiway lines. A definite sign of being a little more pro. Adding still just a little bit more power. Not much. And in fact, I'm actually pulling it back now. There we go, on the taxiway line there. There's the engine's safe zone. So we'll call it the prop safe zone. There's jetways coming out. How about there? And a nice gentle stop. We'll look down here and we'll take care of the parking brake ourselves. And then we'll go over here and do the parking checklist. And watch as the props, there's security right there waiting for me. They probably heard that I got in trouble with some icing earlier. Somebody's going to yell at me. Okay, we stopped the engines. There's number 3, number 4. And then the next engine to stop is going to be over here. You can still see the landing lights are on. I don't really see a nose wheel light. So I think that's about the only lighting that you're going to get out of this particular airplane. So eventually I think they're going to turn off those landing lights and you'll see them kind of come up like this. So they actually folded up under the wings like that, and that's how they did those kinds of landing lights. So tomorrow, and I'm sure that after you watch this next week, we're going to be live streaming this one, and then over the course of the next few days, we will be doing more flights from some of the old timetables and just do some real-world flights in the DC6. I hope you get to have a little bit of fun with all that too. As always, I like to wrap these up by saying, again, this is not about me being right or wrong or anything. These are just my opinions as a simmer and a streamer, and these are the things that I found that work for me on this airplane, and maybe it's going to work for you too. I did mention, leave your questions in the comments and I will answer those, and I do hope if you get a chance to come on over and visit with us on the Spy Flight on Twitch that you'll say hi and say you saw the video and hop into your airplane, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the friendly skies. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great time.